Hello everyone and welcome back to Knowing Who. We are back in the studio after, for you guys, 4 weeks, for us 6 weeks.
Yeah,
it's been more than a month since
we were last in
in the studio doing, all this stuff. I'm gonna have to alter my my headphones a bit because I can't actually hear Ben in my headphones.
Nope. I can hear him though.
Yeah, what a shame. You can't have everything. So today we're going to be talking about an episode from 2005. We're going to be talking about The Long Game.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of in our kind of, looking to sort of less favourite, like Idiot's Lantern, episodes that aren't usually talked about that much.
Not necessarily a bad episode in any respect, just one that isn't talked about as much
that doesn't get
others in
really any attention. So that's going to be very interesting. But first I thought we'd do a bit of housekeeping.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, so...
Where are we?
Well, we've got The War Between the Land and the Sea. That's being filmed right now.
There are set photos. There's new cast members that have been announced.
There is. There's the chap from Torchwood.
Yes, hang on. I have his name. I believe
Colin
McFarlane. Also, fans of the Rufus Hound programme on CBBC Hounded. He was Dr. Moo.
I think that's the first thing I saw him in.
Every time I see him, I think, oh, that's Dr. Moo.
Amazing. I forgot that was his name.
Yeah. And then also we have Ruth Madeley's been seen on set. I don't know if that's been announced.
She's in
officially.
the big cast photo, which looks a bit like the Coal Hill School class announcement photo. It's the same kind of, we're on the set, here's all the cast in like lovely, tailored clothes and looking ready to go. We've seen them out and about doing little Unity things. Not much has been revealed really. We've seen like Russell Tovey on set.
Have you seen
as a human?
Have you seen the set decoration on some road signs?
No, I haven't.
Near the sea, near the coastline. There are somewhere in England. The coast, the road signs say England's best coast or something. It could be all fake. I don't know. Right. But they say no entry. Do not go near the coast. Don't go anywhere. And then there's rubbish and litter everywhere strewn about. So
very interesting.
I assume it's a global warming or littering or something.
Yeah, I think that's what Russell was kind of saying at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see how it all goes. The only thing that at the minute I'm finding hard is remembering the title and also how long the title is. And there's
Do you think they'll change it? Do you think it'll be...
I don't know. Can you imagine...
Unit in the Zygon?
Well, I was chatting with people yesterday and I was like, can you imagine the logo of this? It's going to be quite a small font, like a Marvel
and
kind of thing.
all the sort of directions in Cardiff pointing the cast and crew where to get to set. They don't say TWB, whatever. They just say TWB.
TWB, TLA.
Have you got this all written down?
Well, the War Between the Land and the Sea,
Yeah. So all the little crew lock signs just say TB. So yeah, the War Between TWB.
The War Between.
That's all they say. So I mean, who knows? It could just be a working title, but I don't know. It seems they're pretty solid with it.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what kind of thing it is. I mean, given it's 5 episodes, I'm expecting a sort of contained Children of Earth type deal.
Say,
like a storyline that's really maybe they'll even drop it all at once. As a binging,
as the BBC do nowadays.
And I mean at Disney, that might work for them as well.
I mean, do we know if this is on Disney? This could just be. Is it definitely?
And there was an article on Doctor Who TV, the website, and
right.
It just said,
Okay.
So that's happening. New dollies. We've had some Daleks and Davros
some
announced.
B&M stuff. Yeah,
we've
still
kind
waiting
of got
for the
rumblings of Shooty and Millie dollies.
The Screwdriver, that's been released.
Screwdriver's been released.
It's on pre-order, I think, online.
Is that the deluxe version?
I think both are available now.
Yeah, and I don't know what the differences are. Maybe less sound effects.
The deluxe one, I don't know. You might not have seen. I've seen some. I saw the Batman March review. Matthew Toffolo.
Dun-dun-dun.
Exactly.
Dun-dun-dun.
So I watched his review on it. It's got some secret sounds. If you press the activation button 15 times, 15 for the 15th Doctor, of course, it plays the laser screwdriver sounds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why
I don't know why they chose that.
Why not, I suppose.
It does.
It's a bit like the 14th Doctor sonic screwdriver having or at least, I don't know if it was the same with the standard one, but the online one, you had all the different colours that you could do with it. Again, not in the show, but...
I mean, it could have been. But I mean, I don't imagine that 15 secretly has a laser setting on its sonic.
You never know. Season 2 might get very dark.
Who knows? But I think that's just for the deluxe one. I don't think that's for the regular one.
And the regular one's probably a little bit more kind of...
dumbed down.
Yeah.
Possibly with
Aldi own brand version. So that would be interesting. But I'm quite excited for when these Shooty and Millie dollies get announced.
For those who don't know, it's going to be the same sort of deal. There'll be regular general release ones and character online exclusive ones,
which I imagine will be like the reprints of those. So you probably get like a Space Baby Shooty and a Dot and Bubble Millie.
Apparently, though, it might be a bit more generous than that, but I don't really. I've just heard sort of rumblings. I don't really know.
We will see.
But we'll find out apparently later this month. But who knows?
Who knows? We might get
I've genuinely no idea when we'll find out.
Yeah.
People have said, "Oh, it's going to be September."
Mm-hmm.
But I think they said that in August as well. So.
You hear all sorts of rumblings. So hopefully we'll hear something about them soon.
I mean, and maybe we'll find out that there's more than just Shooty and Millie.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? They could have kept that secret.
Let's see. But other than that, in the world of the show, not too much more to add.
No.
But I did attend something yesterday, in fact.
Yesterday
I went
as of recording.
As of recording, yeah. So this was Saturday, the 14th of September.
Yep.
I went to see the matinee performance of The Stuff of Legend, which was Big Finish's live show. It was a big old kind of classic radio recording setup. All the cast there. Paul McGann in costume.
I saw some pictures.
A beautiful TARDIS, a Dalek in the corner.
It's the movie TARDIS, wasn't it?
The TV movie TARDIS, a good old classic Dalek. Nick Briggs in his little booth with his ring modulator as the Daleks. So there were Daleks
in it, were there?
There was a Dalek. There was Neil's dad from The Inbetweeners as the Master.
Of course.
Good old Alex McQueen, who I'd never heard in an audio before.
Oh, really?
So this was a fresh experience for me, and he stole the show. Everyone was loving and cackling at every line he did. Elaine the Pain was a character in it as well. Amazing. Just such a crowd-pleasing show. Of course, there was a Withnail and I reference, so it's kind of like it's so knowing. There was a reference to the show itself, given that it was set in 1963.
Of course it was.
So it was like. It just felt like this has been tailor-made. I mean, it's out as an actual audio production as well, but this has been tailor-made to be like...
Is this recording going to be put out as a sailed thing, or have they done a separate one and this is just a remake?
They recorded it in studio early in the year. Yeah. That's been released on that was released on the day that the first live show happened. But what they've done is they've recorded both video and also the audio of each performance, I assume. I mean, at least they're recording the one I went to.
Yes.
Whether they're going to do a stitched version of all four of those are the best bits to make a staged version, I don't know. We'll have to see. But either way, the staged version will be out there with laughs, with claps, with applause, with cheers. Yeah. There was loads of those kind of moments. And it got a standing ovation at the end for the first performance. It was the first one of the day that I went to see. And it got a standing ovation. I think twice actually, because it was like the end of the episode, standing ovation, cheer, bravo. A little bit of a audience participation. They sort of explained the process of making a Big Finish audio, and then they were like, "I feel like we need some generic Roboman crowd noises. Do you guys mind helping us out?" And all the audience got involved, more so than the proms. In fact,
really?
Everyone was really into it, and I had a moment where I looked round. All these smiling faces, genuine joy, and I actually got a bit emotional. I was like, this is actually so lovely. This is what Doctor Who is. It's just like a time fracture when I went to that, and I was like, I'm a 20-something-year-old man in this room holding my hands up for whatever the finale of that show was, Artron Energy releasing or whatever, all the doctors speaking around, and it was like, this is... I want to cry because it's so emotional. A beautiful experience, so lovely. I mean, nice to see at the end at stage door Barnaby Edwards, the director, who's obviously
Dalek operator
Barnaby Edwards, who's directed loads of Big Finish in the past. He was so lovely and came out to stage door, and let us all
did a Russell T Davies style cue.
Yeah. It was kind of I'll fend them off while you guys have a break.
Yeah.
Because it's 2-hour shows back to back in 2 days. That's four shows worth. So it was really nice of Barnaby to come out and meet the fans, sign everyone's programmes, and say a little hello. Thanks to everyone else who said hello as well.
Did
a bit like at the proms. Say again?
Did you get recognised again?
A good few times. It was so nice for people to come up and say hello.
So it's the super nerds who go to a Big Finish live compared to the proms.
Yeah, yeah. It was.
No offence, guys.
Really love. I mean, that's what we love, right? Thank you to everyone who said hello. It was so nice to hear from you. Give you all a handshake. And of course, thank you to Richard, Pete, and Josh, who I spent the day with. Who better to enjoy it with? They were lovely, and it was just so lovely. So happy days, happy times and places. It was so nice, and I really hope they do another one again. And you should absolutely come to one.
It sounded like loads of fun, to be completely honest.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll do, maybe because this was kind of a classic Big Finish. Paul McGann, India Fisher as Charlie Pollard, the very first kind of Eighth Doctor and companion duo that they had. So maybe next time, maybe there'll be sort of a new series angle to it.
I mean, David Tennant's probably up for anything as long as he's free.
Who knows? I mean, given that it was just originally it was just going to be the one day. They were going to do a matinee and an evening performance, but it sold out instantly.
So they
did another two performances the next day. So, if it is just a weekend, who knows? Maybe Tennant would be up for it. I think he'd be cracking. And the cast were so good. And like I say, they were just stood there like a traditional radio performance, with scripts. Yeah. And they had a Foley artist there in the corner. Obviously, they don't do that in Big Finish productions. They have a post-production process. But to have that element of it, the music, the moment when the theme played for the first time, and the stage was sort of backlit, and India Fisher and Paul McGann stood up, Paul in costume, and you hear the theme blaring out, and they sort of projected like a vortex swirl onto the TARDIS box, and it was chills. It was really, really great. But yes, enough of that. If you went to that and enjoyed it, please let us know. It was so nice to see everyone who I met there. Thank you for saying hello. But I won't waffle on about it anymore because we've got a job to do. We've got a long game to play.
We do.
So
I've just got the title. I've just got it.
Have you really?
I've only just...
Well, do you know something about the title? I think this might be a myth, but apparently fans at the time thought, is this a Celestial Toymaker episode? Because of the title. I don't think that's true.
No.
I reckon it was
it could be. I don't know.
Who knows? It would be the perfect title for a Celestial Toymaker episode. I mean, the giggle could have been called The Long Game.
If anything, it was Sutek playing a long game.
It was, wasn't it? The long walk. The long dog walk through the vortex. The Long Game, always the lowest ranked Ninth Doctor story. Every poll that there's been, it's always come at the bottom. It's never. I don't think even Boomtown. I was
wondering why you suggested this episode. To be completely honest,
I didn't. Did I suggest it?
I think so.
I think you suggested it. Who knows? We'll never know. We'll never know.
Because I don't think I'd be able to. If someone said, "Oh, do you know that one with the Jagrafess?" I don't think I'd be able to say, "Oh yeah, that's called The Long Game."
It's quite a generic title, I suppose, isn't it?
It is when you think about it. It is like a quintessential story. Like everyone knows the Jagrafess and Satellite 5 and Simon Pegg's in this one.
Yeah.
But when you think that's all you really remember. And it's the one where Adam gets his head chipped. But like it's basically it is a bit of a nothing story.
Yeah, it's proving Adam is no good. Yeah. Basically. And that was the intention. But it's not surprising that this one goes under the radar because in the grand scheme of season 1, even though series 1.
Come on.
Sorry, purists. But in the grand scheme of season 1, even series 1, even though it is like Satellite 5 is quite important, and it links to, and it's important for the thread. It is easy to see why this one gets forgotten, especially sandwiched between Dalek and Father's Day. It's like if you're the lowest ranked Ninth Doctor story, that still ain't a bad claim to fame in my opinion.
Good. Yeah, it's still a good episode. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, just a quick thought. Ninth Doctor, when he goes off world, does he only go to Satellite 5?
Yes, so the Ninth Doctor only has adventures on Earth or orbiting Earth.
Yeah.
It's a weird thought. I only realised that a few years ago. My cousin pointed out. He was like, isn't it weird how the Ninth Doctor is basically Earthbound? Another parallel to John Pertwee, and then you've got... Anyway, that's a whole thing. But yes, just quickly, broadcast 7th of May 2005. I always find it weird when I pinpoint when in the year it was broadcast because
May.
we obviously have no sort of concept of that once it's gone out.
True.
Starring Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor, Billie Piper as Rose Tyler, written by some random bloke called Russell T Davies, and directed by Brian Grant, who had no other Doctor Who episode credits.
I didn't recognise his name.
No, neither did I. But he did direct many a music video, including Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody." So
cool.
That's not a bad claim to fame.
I suppose not.
Shall we just jump in?
Yeah.
Should we kind of go chronologically, maybe, and just sort of?
I think so. I think
take us through the plot.
That's sort of the best way we do it normally.
When did you watch this before? Because
this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched it 2 days ago.
Right.
Friday night.
Saturday,
Sunday. Yeah.
Thank you. For that.
I think I watched it on Friday night, or maybe Thursday. A while ago at this point. You watched it
this morning.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Did you watch Confidential as well? I
did watch Confidential as well. I watched it afterwards as I was sort of finishing my notes.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I did message Ben earlier in the week with a photo of the research I was doing. I was back home, so I was able to dig out my.
He's got lots of material.
My collection of long game merch, including one that I've brought here today. The Complete History. Have you got any of these books?
No.
They're so nice.
They look like good.
I never got the whole bunch, but I cherry picked a few that I fancied, and some great stuff in it. Like literally everything you could want to know about the episode.
Yeah,
it's in that. So
good.
You're sorted. But I sent a picture to Ben being like, research beginning, and I was about to watch the episode, and then just things got away with me, so I didn't. I've literally only just sort of.
I think I was watching it as you sent me that.
Yeah,
I think so.
So you were doing. I
was actually doing
proper
research.
work.
Yeah.
So off the bat, just overall, what did you think? After having not watched this in a while, I assume.
No, I don't think I've watched this in quite a while. In fact, I think the first time I watched this was on a plane.
Wow.
I know.
You're the only person to have ever watched The Long Game for the first time on a plane.
Well, probably not. It was
Long
in Emirates.
Game on a
I think
plane.
it was Emirates, and they had Doctor Who, so of course I was going to watch Doctor Who, but they only had Series 1. So I think I just watched the back half of Series 1 for the whole flight. And The Long Game was there, and I watched it. I might have started with The Long Game and then watched up to the end.
It's quite a good kind of place to start, given it's the sort of mid-season kind of. The arc is starting to become more of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that I had watched it before or bits of it, and I probably knew who Adam was, and he gets this head thing because I'd read all the magazines and stuff as a kid. I would have been a teenager at this point, so I probably would have watched it or heard of it or knew the plot, but I only watched it in full for the first time as a teenager. But I really like Rose's jacket.
She's got cool. It's another Punky Fish one. Isn't that the brand that she wears throughout the whole
Is that
series?
what it is? I know it's been ID'd at some point because I found a website the other day. Literally.
Were you tempted to buy it?
No.
The Rose
literally
fit.
Completely unrelated. I found this website. It was on TikTok, I think. It was some TikTok about important websites you need to know, and it was. You can find any TV show, any episode, and it'll tell you every piece of costume that every character is wearing, assuming someone has gone in and put the research in. And I happened to just click The Long Game. I was like, oh, they've ID'd this weird jacket.
Wow.
But I don't know what it was. But yes, I do like her little jumper.
She kind of it kind of adds to the aesthetic, like the way that she's got her hair and stuff. It sort of leans into the futuristic kind of vibe because everyone in this
yet it's still very
2006. It's that weird kind of let's make it futuristic by putting loads of beads and things in people's hair and trying to braid them and stuff.
Britney Spears 2004 music video.
It's like I can see what you're trying to do, but you're also still got one foot very much in 2005.
One of the notes I literally have is all these people are dressed very 2005 for 200,000.
Yeah, maybe it comes back. I mean, look at us now. We're starting to dress more like.
I have a mullet and I'm wearing bootcut jeans. I mean, what can I say?
Precisely, and that's only 50 years after the fashion. So who knows? Maybe in 200,000 years, things will come back around. But the overall aesthetic of the ship and the the sort of space station, I suppose, and the way that first floor that we see is set out, it's very sort of Blade Runner.
Of course, that set gets reused constantly.
Yeah, you can see this is the cheap one of the series.
Well, in this episode alone, it's reused. I think it's also used in the series finale at some point. Yeah, it's all set on Satellite 5.
Yeah.
It's possibly also used in The End of the World because I assume they've reused sets. That's why they keep going back to Satellite 5. It's not because Russell thought he was being clever and he was going to say, oh, it's the same one the whole time. It's because they needed to save money.
How can we save money?
And they built one generic spaceship set.
Yeah, well, I think in this instance,
even in this story,
it was intended to be like, we need to make this episode like a cheap one. We've spent a lot of the budget. we'll reuse the floor set, and also CGI wise, it's like you've got the info spike and then Jagrafess. But even the Jagrafess, Russell was like, we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing too much of that because we just didn't have the money. So but it's done very cleverly, because you wouldn't, unless you think about it, you wouldn't really think, this was the cheap one.
I was looking out for it because I noticed the first time they walk onto that floor, I thought this looks very much like the outside of the Big Brother set, because it is. It's the exact same thing.
Well, yeah.
And the lift, I'm pretty sure.
Is it called the game station?
The game station,
finale, yeah.
I think the lift that they use is also the exit of the Big Brother house, where they get disintegrated.
Yeah,
I think
like
that's
the door.
All the same set. So I noticed it instantly. I was like, okay, I'll keep an eye out, because I know it's all about floors. Yeah. And it was. Every time they came out of the lift, it's the same set, just redressed. But they do it very well. They redress it really well.
They do, yeah. And I like floor 500, which is obviously, the sort of frosty floor. I think that's very well done, and all the corpses and things, it all plays.
Because obviously the where the corpses are, has that room got a name? The download room, whatever it's called,
the editorial suite. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the bit where all their minds go into a beam and it goes downloaded into someone else. That is obviously also the nurse's set. Yeah, and it's also obviously the same.
The one
set.
Upstairs.
It's the same one, just redressed with some dead bodies
skeletons.
On it. So that literally, I think there are 3 sets in this entire story, and 2 of them are reused. But it's good. It works. It works.
Exactly. Yeah. And then talking about the cast as well, I mean, Suki and Kathika, who's kind of our like main kind of links for the society that we're in. I mean, both fantastic. Like Anna Maxwell Martin is incredible, and I think Christine Adams, who plays Kathika, is
I knew I recognised
well.
her, but I wasn't sure where from.
Yeah, Kathika's like a very unlikable character, really.
Extremely, yeah.
Yeah, but she makes her watchable and obviously by the end endearing, and somewhat. I think that's the kind of the message of series 1. I keep calling it season 1 because we've had season 1 so recently, but yeah, that's the message of series 1, because Eccleston the Doctor is kind of healing the universe one person at a time. If you notice in series 1, he never saves the day, at least directly.
Okay.
It'll always be one of the supporting characters, or Rose.
I guess Rose does it in the finale.
Yeah, you've got, obviously in this instance it's Kathika who saves the day. It's like Nancy and the Nth Child sort of taking responsibility.
Father's Day, Pete, I suppose.
Pete and Father's Day. There's loads of examples like that, and it's a really sort of beautiful, less obvious arc in that series. It's like, here's a man who's come from a horrific war, and he's helping people in these small ways to become heroes and saviors, until he heals himself at the end of the series. So I think that's nice that we sort of see that little arc for Kathika throughout the episode, and Christine Adams does a very good job of doing that. Speaking of Eccleston, what do we think of him in this one?
Oh, he's great.
I mean, he's
doing exactly what he always does. He's fantastic. Great use of.
There we go.
No, he is great. I love the bit when they're all shackled. Oh, we're skipping right to. We said we'd start from the beginning.
We'll jump over
the bit when they're shackled up right at the end on floor 500. And they're like, oh no, we're just travellers. We're nobodies. Don't worry about us. And then they find out who he is. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? That's all bollocks. Like, it's a very nice little funny scene. But he is good in that. And also, I like how
it's his doctor. It's so his doctor when he says, "Let me out of these manacles, and I'll show you how much fun I am."
It's like really
that is only the Ninth Doctor.
That. Yeah.
Can you imagine John Pertwee saying, "Let me out of these manacles, sir"? I love his little bit at the start. When he's just giving Adam the money and he's like, go find out, go explore, go kiss a complete stranger. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's his doctor. It's kind of the extreme joy sort of, and you can see behind the eyes that's hiding this deep trauma of, I've killed my people, or at least he thinks at this point. And I think there's also a really beautiful shot when him and Rose have just sort of got into the systems of the Satellite 5, and they're kind of they show Kathika, and she's starting to look at it all, and she's in the foreground, out of focus, and the camera's sort of sitting on Eccleston. He says nothing, but he's watching her. It's almost like he's sort of testing her, and you can see in his eyes, he's like, "Yeah, go on, you're working it out." And that, again, sort of a bit like I was saying, it's kind of him trying to help people one person at a time, kind of going, "I'm going to see if I can help make you a better person."
Yeah.
It's a lovely little understated moment, and a beautiful bit of direction as well by Brian Grant as well, that sort of goes a bit unnoticed amongst all the sort of fast-paced intro and ending as well. I do think that in terms of the story structure, I feel like Act 1 is very sort of bang, 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 here we go. And when we sort of get into the second arc and sort of Adam's going downstairs to get this chip, and the Doctor and Rose are just sort of milling about, kind of trying to work out what's going on, it does slow a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I do feel like it picks back up. As soon as they're on floor 500, it's like, okay, now we've kicked up a gear again.
Back in again.
But there is that sort of lull in the middle for that second act, that, you know, might have. I mean, I don't know what else could have been done though. You know. No,
well, so I think what caused that, because in Confidential, Russell says that this is, he doesn't use these exact words, but this is essentially a Dr. Light story.
Yeah.
Which you don't really notice, because it's not like the Dr. Lights we've had in the following, you know, where there's literally no presence of the Doctor except for maybe the beginning and the end. So I don't know what stories they would have been shooting at the same time.
So they were meant to be shooting this in a block with Dalek and Father's Day, but they, for some reason, weren't able to do that, so this became like its own separate block on its own.
Explains why the director only did this one episode. But they say, Russell, he says that's why it's kind of a bit Adam heavy. It's probably why Adam's even in the story at all, I suppose.
Well, I think this was always going to be an episode about him. It was always going to be. I think originally it was referred to, like in his initial sort of breakdown of the series, this one was called The Companion Who Couldn't. That was the sort of placeholder title.
Fair enough.
And I think he sort of toyed with it being called just Adam. Which I think,
like we had Rose earlier.
Yeah, like we had Rose.
And Dalek, I suppose.
yeah, just one-word titles of the whole series. I think Adam's a Torchwood episode as well.
It is. Yeah.
Is it the one with that guy who sort of infiltrates his way in? Yeah,
writes his way into their memories.
Just on the topic of Russell, I went to the shooting scripts book, which is obviously all the scripts from series 1, and Russell does a little intro to at least the long game. I'm assuming it's the writer of each episode who does an intro to it. And it's interesting actually hearing him talk about it, because usually Russell's very much kind of like enthused about everything that he's kind of done. But for the long game, he says, I'll read out the quote, because I was sort of shocked. It's like, oh wow, is this very honest? He said, Paul, the long game. As a story, it's torn in all directions. I really should have made my mind up. To tell this tale properly, it should have been a version of Rose, this time called Adam. The story of an ordinary lad in outer space with the mysterious Doctor and the enigmatic Rose in peripheral roles, like we were saying in Dr. Light, seen only through his eyes. And he kind of goes on to sort of say he was all for that, and then he saw how good Chris and Billy were and how much everyone loved them, and he was like, well, I can't
take them out.
It was a disservice to them, he felt, to give them nothing for this episode. So whilst he still kind of says in Confidential, like, oh, it's a Dr. Light story, it was meant to be much more Dr. Light,
and
from his perspective. So yeah, and he actually ends that whole intro saying, oh, it's all one long accident. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So there you go. From Russell's mouth, he says apparently it's no good. So, you know, if the naysayers say no, well, Russell's backing up on it. But yeah, I do kind of think that. I think that there's very much, once Adam and the Doctor and Rose go separate ways midway through, it's kind of like there's the plot of the Doctor and Rose figuring out what's happening on the Satellite 5. And then there's Adam going and looking with history and trying to get a chip in his head. And it's like the Doctor and Rose stuff, I guess, would have been the B plot in this other version, which Russell was intending to write, and the Adam stuff would have been very much the A plot. There would have been more for him to do. It would have been more from his perspective. But what we get in this is like, it's kind of the A plot is the Doctor and Rose, and Adam stuff is the B plot, but it's actually quite a lot's happening.
It means more to the end of the episode as well, Adam's bit, because obviously that's what you know, almost screws over the Doctor in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I see what you mean. And obviously the ending is very much Adam centric as well.
Yeah, but it feels like you do get the sense of like this was very much intended to be one way, and it's kind of, it can't really make up like Russell says, it can't really make up its mind. It is torn in both directions. It's like we want to keep doing Doctor and Rose stuff because they're so good together, and Billie and Chris are so good together.
Yeah.
Like her dynamic is just as good with Chris as it is with David next series. But you think, but then this Adam character, if you're gonna go for it, you've got to kind of give him more stuff so that we can get into his head a bit more. Because on the surface, it's just like, well, obviously he's no
sort
good.
Of a mean fella.
Yeah,
like, he doesn't. I don't know. He's just a bit selfish, I guess. At the end.
Yeah, realistically, there was an interesting bit that I read in this complete history because it talks about things that were cut, which is interesting, given that we don't get much of that deleted scenes and things, especially for series 1. I don't think we got any. Yeah,
and Confidential, just for those who haven't watched it, isn't really centered around this episode at all.
Yeah,
it sort of briefly mentions it, and then it just goes into like classic a history series of the Master. Like, it's very much
series 1. Pretty much was like,
let's catch everyone up.
Yeah, let's tell everyone what's been going on in the classic series. But this book, it talks about in post what got cut out, and there was an interesting little tidbit because they cut down on some of the Adam stuff again for some reason, given that this was meant to be more his thing, but again because it needed to be more Doctor and Rose. There was a little bit when Adam talks about artificial gravity on the spaceship, and he's like, oh well, surely we'll all, if someone switches that off, we're all dead, we're going to be like floating around smashing into things and all that sort of stuff. And he says to Rose, like, how do you not think about these things? How are you so like
blasé? Not worried about that? And
she says to him, oh, I don't know, I must be really thick because I never ask these questions. And then Adam just carries on. So they cut that exchange of Rose saying, oh, I'm thick. And then later on, when they drop Adam off home, there was going to be a bit where Rose sort of stood forward and she was said, all right, here's the thing. Sure, you almost gave away the secrets of time travel to this mighty Jagrafess, and sure, you almost destroyed the timeline because of doing all this stuff. And she's like, but you know where you really went wrong? When I said I was thick, you didn't say no, I'm not. And I thought, that is Russell's Who. It's kind of, here's the big spacey stuff, but ultimately that don't matter. Like, what matters is these characters and the interactions between them.
It's the personalities.
And obviously, because one exchange got cut, it meant that we couldn't have had that lovely ending with Rose. And I think because that stuff is cut, Rose she is present, but she's a lot less present, and the stuff that she's doing, she doesn't get much to play with, really. So she is there, but she's sort of not as well. So yeah, I don't know, that's kind of something that I think it's a shame that we lost that, really, because I think that would have been a really lovely moment.
Yeah, it would have been,
and
you're
very
right.
Russell,
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a shame. It's a shame that we miss stuff like that. Should we talk about Simon Pegg?
Yes. He's great in this.
He steals the show.
He does. He really does.
He literally steals the show.
They say in Confidential how they really like how he just takes what he's been given and plays with it, and how he says it and how he acts it. I think some of this, at least some of it, is ad lib.
I found out. Guess what line do you think was ad libbed?
It's got to be. Well, I think this is the end, and I'm going to hand in my notice or whatever it is.
I think that might have been, but the bit that I
or at least the way he says it, the way he says it was written in the script.
But he sounds so natural, right?
I know, it's great.
The one that was definitely ad libbed was after he said the mighty Jagrafess of the holy Hadrojassic Maxarodenfoe, and he says I call him Max. That's ad libbed. So Chris's reaction to that was like, it's sort of a semi kind of like, all right.
Do you think the reason, because in Confidential they have this bit where he can't pronounce that line, and I'm not going to try it because I bet I won't be able to. You just did it perfectly, and then I bet at the very end when he finally got it, he added on that line, and no one was expecting it, and they probably all just burst out laughing.
Cheered, yeah. I love that.
That would have been really funny. I'm not surprised. I call him Max. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a great name. I love that. I mean, I love Series 1 with its Rax Coracalapatorius, and I swear there's a big long one in End of the World as well. Russell's always chucking stuff like that.
Belflotch
Blomfell,
No,
Fasimir Day Slitheen.
That's Slitheen. It's who's the little blue fella?
The Mox of Balhoun.
That's sort of long. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, Cassandra's got a big long actual name, doesn't she?
Cassandra O'Brien Delta 17. Why has my brain got these things in it?
Yeah, I knew it had a Delta in it.
And yet I can't work the editing software half the time.
It took us 10 minutes to get this session going.
It did, yeah, because we couldn't work out why I couldn't hear myself. But yeah, Simon Pegg is fantastic. He looks so
great.
Cool. The sort of bleached eyebrows.
Yeah, they bleached his eyebrows and his beard, and he says in Confidential that he's got this really sharp suit on, but it's such a 2005 baggy, horrible suit. It's so it's the opposite of sharp. It's horrible. It's so misshapen.
But he's so charismatic, and like I think Russell says in Confidential, he's like, if we had anyone else playing it, I think people would find it boring, but because it's Simon Pegg delivering those lines,
the idea is
makes it charismatic.
The character is meant to be boring and dull because he's a banker. And when I went into this, I was thinking, who is Simon? Like, what is his? Is he human? What is he? He's just the editor. He's not got a name. He's obviously not a Time Lord, but like, because he's got that kind of name, the editor. But he does say, I'm a human. I represent some banks, which makes him the ultimate boring person.
Yeah. Does he call himself the editor in it? I've forgotten.
He says, I'm the editor, but I report to the editor-in-chief.
Right, yeah. I was wondering if it was one of those things where we only know his name because of the action figure.
No, he does call himself... He says, he says, you can call me the editor, or you can think of me as the editor, or something like that. He doesn't say, I am the editor, as in his name is editor.
Right.
But it is said, it is said. He's great.
He's so good.
He is good.
He's
and obviously the Jagrafess isn't really there, so he is the bad guy in a sense.
Well, he's the mouthpiece for the baddie.
He's the evil. Is he a genius? He's evil. Is he a genius?
He's not a genius. Well, the Jagrafess is the genius, I suppose. And how good does the Jagrafess look even now?
I was going to say the opposite.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to... The slime, the way that it sort of interacts with the environment... The one thing I had was like, how do you walk into that room and not see that thing on the ceiling?
True.
You know, they walk in and it's like, oh my God, there it is.
I guess it's because in real life, the set has a roof that is about there compared to the actual...
There's a shot where it pans up and you think, oh, it's going to pan up for ages. And it's like, no, just it's literally like 2 centimetres above Chris's head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he sort of, because he looks huge, he's a big mound of flesh is what they called him in the script, I believe. A big wall of flesh.
Big wall
and then
of flesh.
When he drops down and his mouth is, or he or she or they, their mouth drops down to about Chris's head height, and it's tiny. It's so small compared to Chris, compared to what you see up in the sky. It's huge, and then it comes down, he's tiny.
But it does work well when they're sort of hiding his reveal with the kind of the camera being in the
with
rafters,
the camera up there and it comes down. That's good, and I do like that's very Doctor Who.
It's very Doctor, and Anna Maxwell Martin, she commits to it. She's like, I'm going to give a good old classic Doctor Who scream. It's really it's a great moment.
What do they actually do to? I know they kill her. I know because she say, oh yeah, I think she's dead. So I know she's dead, but she's all frozen and cold. Not as frozen as the other ones because she's not been there as long. I noticed that's a little detail.
Good detail, isn't it? Yeah, there's varying stages.
But like, it's a dead body and it's being controlled somehow, presumably by the Jagrafess. That's all we really know, I guess.
I guess it's like they're using the chips in their heads.
Oh, they have chips.
So it's probably like that's still active, and they're just using the body as like a conduit. It's
Fair enough.
Quite freaky, really.
I forgot there were chips there.
Yeah,
it's the whole
on those screens
plot of the story.
in the editor's room. There's some stills apparently from 2 classic Doctor Who stories, the Ark in Space and the Leisure Hive. But you can't really. I mean, I couldn't see them.
Well, the Ark in Space, that's a space station. Is the Leisure Hive a space station?
The Leisure Hive. I've
never heard of the Leisure Hive.
It's a Tom Baker story. It's from season 18, so it's his last series.
There's always a new Doctor Who story I've never heard of.
Well,
I've never heard of that one.
Leisure Hive. Maybe you know what? We might add that to the list. So
a story you don't like.
A story I'm not very fond of.
There's a couple of them coming up, guys.
You'll have seen a line from that. You mentioned Formazi. Have you heard that?
No.
Well, you will do. Yeah, Simon Pegg as well. He was originally going to be a different character in this series. Do you know who that was going to be?
I've heard this, but I don't remember.
He was going to be, like we were saying, that this was going to be in a block with Father's Day originally. So he was originally offered to be Pete Tyler.
And then they hired a lookalike for him.
Yeah.
To look very similar.
Sean Dingwall does look a bit like...
an older version.
In the slightly older version of Simon Pegg.
Where was Simon Pegg in his career at this point?
He'd done... that show, Edgar Wright show.
Of course, he was on TV first, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was kind of yeah, but he was dead keen to get into sci-fi.
Yeah. Had any of the Cornetto trilogy come out at this point?
No, I think Shaun of the Shaun of the Dead was 2005, I think. So maybe he was about to shoot it or had shot it.
Yeah. And I know he goes on to do Star Trek in 2009, so he's four years off.
And he's now doing stuff with Tom Cruise and things, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing Mission. He was 5 years off of Star Trek, Mission Impossible, massive cinema.
Yeah.
So yeah, not too far.
Well, I think you can see that he was having a blast playing a baddie.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would have been interesting to see him as Pete Tyler, a non-comedic role, really.
Because, it would have been completely changed if Simon Pegg was playing it. Although there's probably a reason he turned it down. He probably didn't want to play such a boring...
No, apparently it was commitments. And he said to Billie... Apparently he met Billie Piper after. He was like, I'm going to have to turn that down. I hope I get asked again. And so I think they were like, oh, well, do you want to play the editor?
Yeah, and I assume it was while making this, they decided to make him the voice of Confidential for Series 1.
Yeah, it's weird that, isn't it? You forget that he's the voice.
Because they change it over time, Confidential. I think Series 2 is...
Mark Gatiss.
Wasn't it the Headmaster?
I think Anthony Stewart heads after, from like Series 3 onwards.
Right, sorry, my mistake.
And then do you know who Series 5 and beyond is? No, I think it's just Series 5. It's
I can't remember.
Francesco the Vampire. Whoever that guy is.
Oh,
I just know that it's that guy.
So, I think they probably just ask people when they're on set, do you want to do a voiceover
per series? Although I think Russell Tovey does it for a series at one point.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sort of, I think, it is sort of a bit mismatched.
But it's always fun. It's fun to notice and for that extra involvement. Now, obviously, we've got Stefan Powell.
Yes.
Hello. What else?
Shalom, Jackie.
Yes, we have got Jackie in this. Tamsin Greig, another guest actor who steals the show, even though she's only in 2 scenes.
She's weird and creepy and sort
flirty.
Sort of.
Yeah, there's a moment when she taps him on the shoulder and it's like, oh, all right, Tamsin.
She's also a bit sort of crazy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's sort of the vibe of the year 200,000. They're all sort of, not idiots, but dumbed down for what they should be. The human race, that is, not women, or specifically anyone in the cast.
She's perfect in the role, though.
She's great.
She's such good
the character's
casting.
meant to be creepy and weird. And, it's all about your brain, don't worry. Oh, yeah, we put that in for free.
Yeah, she's so good. Yeah, very, very good. Another one that's obviously she's gone on to do really great things in sitcom and all sorts of stuff.
Obviously, Friday Night Dinner, which is what we're referencing if people don't know.
Obviously the big one, yeah. And I think she was one of the first female Malvolios in Twelfth Night on stage, Shakespeare.
Sure.
There you go. Did you say shalom?
No, I said sure.
When you went shalom.
Shalom.
There you go. So that she's another great cast member in Her.
I've got a little note here. Also, the editor, back to Simon Pegg. There's one little bit where the Jagrafess, I think, is talking to him in the room, and he puts his fingers up to his ear, and he's like, "Well, yeah, no, don't worry. Yes, yeah, I got that." And obviously, he's not got an earpiece in his ear. That's definitely an addition that he made on the day. It's got to be.
Yeah. Rather than looking. Well, then he does look upwards for some bits as well.
Well, I assume he's talking to Max.
Yeah, it's just why he has the earpiece. It's the Jagrafess gone off for a walk in the other room. I think
there's a couple of people talking all at once, and he just goes, yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was a little funny moment I liked.
The Jagrafess, was meant to be voiced by Nick Briggs, but he'd done the Nestine earlier in the series, and apparently it sounded too similar. So the dubbing guy,
another big blob of floating mass.
Big blob, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the dubbing guy, I think the editor, the actual editor of the episode.
The Jagrafess doesn't talk though.
He sort of goes
exactly
like that, yeah. But so the Nestine
doesn't talk either.
The Nestine just sort of went rah, and then said "Time Lord," and that was kind of it. But apparently that sounded too similar to whatever the Jagrafess. Bloody
how did the Jagrafess go?
I will not dignify my Jagrafess impression again. What about the info spike stuff? I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a clever idea.
The CG on that is actually really impressive.
It is.
It is undeniably 2005 CGI.
But the bit when Adam touches his head
it flicks and it makes noise. That's literally what I was going to say. It's really good.
It's simple. It looks real as well. I think originally it was going to be a bigger thing.
It tracks on his head as well. Yeah. It's really good for 2005.
It's kind of faultless, really.
Yeah. Except it's so low res.
Yeah, but
compared to the footage as well.
But it's a simple, a bit like for the Idiot's Lantern movie, we're talking about the faceless people. It's a simple idea.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's very achievable. And it's something that's like, yeah, I could see that. I could see people wanting to do that in the future. You know, I'll have a little thing that click, and then my brain it gets exposed.
Yeah, I don't know if we do the brain exposure thing in real life, but a little thing in your forehead that opens up to absorb stuff. I think I can see that.
Yeah,
it's like the new iPhone, isn't it?
It's just technology, you know.
It's like Adam has the iPhone Pro.
Oh,
you hit the mic again.
I
every
did.
Episode.
Adam is talking to me. Sorry.
Oh no, Adam has the iPhone Pro, and then everyone else has like the regular, boring, bog standard iPhone with the chips that don't open up.
Yeah.
Chip Model 1 and Model 2.
Well, that's what it feels like, right? It's like an interesting social commentary because you've got obviously that stuff.
This is also pre-iPhone as well. So.
Yeah. It's kind of the technology angle, and then also that scene when the Doctor is chatting with Kathika and being like, you know, the human race is stunted, and it's this idea that by almost closing the borders and stopping other civilizations from interacting with them and stuff like that, that has meant that as a society it's just stopped, which is obviously an interesting commentary on the whole, you know, the integration and stuff like that. And that's what the Jagrafess is doing through the media. So again, you got another level of commentary of fake news.
I don't know what 2005 would have thought of that, but these days that's very much a pertinent topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I suppose because there's so much other stuff that the episode's trying to do, we don't get to dwell on that too much, but it is a really interesting idea. An idea that Russell had in the 80s. Did you know about this?
Go on.
So the long game was initially like a proposal that Russell sent to the scripts.
Was this that Sixth Doctor story?
No, so that was before, and I don't think I don't know if he submitted that, but this is one that he actually submitted.
I know it went on to be a big Finish story. Yeah, it was published in a book.
He submitted to Andrew Cartmel, the script editor of the McCoy series. Back in the 80s, and he was politely declined by Andrew Cartmel, and apparently the BBC advised him to move away from sci-fi and focus on real life stuff. So he kind of did that, and then went, why don't I bring some of that into the sci-fi? And there you go. But yeah, so we could have been chatting about a 4-part McCoy story, the long game,
with some fella called Adam.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that probably wouldn't have been. He probably took the long game concept and just plonked that into the Adam stuff. But yeah, it's so interesting that, you know, this started life back in the 80s, and
that is literally a long game.
It is. He plays a long game, Russell. He does.
Well, he does, because then he left for 15 years and came back.
Yeah, he's always got a plan.
He's always
got a plan. Yes.
There's also. At this point, should we just go through our sort of notes and see if we have anything?
Well, is there anything else you got to add? Yeah, let me know.
I'll have a look. Through my notes. I've noticed there's one thing I've written here. Suki says very much near the beginning, "It's the law," and she ends up being a freedom fighter.
Oh, right, yeah.
I thought originally when I wrote this, she's actually the police. She's not the police. She's a rebel freedom fighter. But it's just a little sort of drop.
In a back garden somewhere with a fake machine gun.
Yeah. Very early on in the episode, it sort of drops that she is very aware of the law and what is right and what is wrong, and then she ends up being a freedom fighter. That's a little very clever bit. Obviously, the main Adam plot circles around the phone. Rose's phone, then he phones home and he sends back all this info. I don't know how the sort of brain energy goes down a telephone line and then gets absorbed around the landline at home. I don't know.
That poor dog.
Also in 2012, I don't think, because Adam's from 2012, I don't think any landlines existed still.
But surely, I mean, maybe his family is just very outdated.
Yeah, true. And his parents' house is not very 2012.
Oh, also, can I say about Rose's phone? It's amazing how much that dates this series when she takes that out, and it's like, oh my god, it's so because then in Father's Day, Pete Tyler gets out his like brick of a phone, or or if I don't know if it's him or another character.
Someone does,
and Rose is like, oh my god, it's
huge.
Yeah. But then we look back at that, and it's like, wow, it's so mad.
I mean, and that Father's Day. I know we're not talking about Father's Day, but Father's Day would have been about 20 years later.
Yeah.
And now we're almost 20 years later on series 1.
Literally
next year.
Next year will be exactly 20 years.
So that is actually a really pertinent point as well.
Yeah, we're literally it's a historic. These stories are becoming historicals, you know.
Yeah.
Just like Father's Day, it was a really bizarre thing at the time for them to be like, we're doing a historical episode about something that only happened 20 years ago.
Was set in 87.
Yeah. So not even 20 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
So it has been 19 years. More time has passed between now and Father's Day than Father's Day's setting and release date.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I hate that.
Isn't that nuts?
I hate that.
I mean, well, it was all filmed in 2004, well, most of it. So it is literally 20 years since they shot that stuff. How mad. That is nuts.
Weird. I mean,
crazy.
I would have been 3, but still baffling.
Yeah.
What else have I got? Floor 500 set redress. I've written that down.
You got anything about Murray's music?
I don't specifically.
But Murray, I thought it's that series 1 sort of really pared back music of
MIDI sort of.
Yeah.
Which is why we don't have a series 1 CD.
But it's really creepy actually. I don't know what that screeching noise is. It's like, is it strings maybe or violins?
I do not remember. I'll be completely honest.
It's when something sinister happens. Can you picture that? Yeah, like when Suki gets into the lift and you know, Kathy says, "Oh, once you go to floor 500, you never come back," and then it's like a really, I can't do an impression of it, but there you
go. What else have I got here? Oh, the floating key when it comes out of Adam's pocket. Definitely just someone off camera holding 100%. Holding the chain.
100%. Nothing changes.
No,
yeah.
I loved that. I loved it. It was so obvious as well.
Yeah.
I did love that shot. And then it gets dropped. If it's all the same to you, I think I'll resign. Funny line.
Great line.
Loved
Great line. All of it. I gave a lot of chuckles to Simon Pegg's line.
And then I've just got a little half page dedicated to Confidential. Big Finish got mentioned.
It did, yeah.
Simon Pegg said, I've done Doctor Who before for a little company called Big Finish or something. That's what he says.
Yeah. Very good story.
Oh my God, there's classic Doctors in this.
What in
Confidential?
Oh, in Confidential.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like in the long game.
There's classic Doctors. Peter Davison, Tom Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Collins in there. They've just got all the gang, all the Big Finish gang are there.
Yeah.
Which is
Did you find that interesting? As someone
surprised.
who hasn't seen as much classic stuff, was it like, oh, this is actually quite informative for me to be seeing these things?
Well, I sort of knew all of it already. I think.
So.
I mean, maybe in 2005 it would have been very interesting
for a lot of people. That
someone
would have been,
in 2024 who's not watched a lot but knows a lot.
You've been exposed to the basics.
I've written this as apparently a Dr. Light story, but we've already discussed that. And then I've written, this is just a bit of a history lesson now. And RTD calls the editor sexy.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't.
One thing says sexy like bleached eyebrows and a baggy blue suit.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've got. That's all the important notes I've got here.
Yeah, the crucial stuff. Yeah. Well, let's bring it back around to Mr. Davies and bring back that comment. Not the one about the editor being sexy editor. But
I don't remember what he says about it. He just says he's sexy.
He said, he's slick, he's sexy, he's Simon Pegg. That comment that he ended on in the shooting scripts, it's all one long accident, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Would we agree with Russell there? Or do we think the long game actually
I don't think it's a bad story.
Yeah.
There's certainly worse Doctor Who out there. Yeah, I don't think it's I think it makes sense from what we missed out on. I can understand where he's coming from.
Yes.
You know, the Adam plot, which we didn't get. And
you can see that it should have been something
that would have been
else,
probably a better story. I don't know if it would have still been the lowest rated Ninth Doctor story. There's still a lot of better stories in Series 1.
And that rides on Adam as a character as well, right? If you've got more of him, if you really don't like him and don't get on board with him, then that's just going to turn you, regardless of the fact of whether that's meant to, which is meant to be the case. You're not meant to like him. He's not meant to be like, oh, he'll be a great companion.
Yeah.
But some people will have that natural thing of if they watch a show and they're like, I don't like that character, therefore, if the whole episode's about that character, then they're not going to like it.
It won't change it for them.
So, yeah.
But I think compared to what we could have gotten, it probably would have been a better story, and that justifies what Russell said. But otherwise, I think it's a good story. Certainly not a bad story.
No, I do think it's good, especially when I put it on and I was starting to watch it.
Especially because you kept putting it off.
Yeah.
You really didn't want to watch this.
Yeah, obviously there was something in my brain going, don't. But as I was starting to watch it, I was like, this is actually, it's really good. I mean, watch anything with Chris and Billy and they're just magnetic. And it's got a great cast, like we said, Simon Pegg, Tamsin Greig.
Yeah.
Anna Maxwell Martin, Christian Adams. It's like, there's really great guest characters in this, and they really sell it. So yeah, it's good. It's good. You know. Do you prefer this to The Idiot's Lantern or not?
That's a good question. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd watch The Idiot's Lantern over this.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Idiot's Lantern, I don't know. It's just, I like it.
Yeah.
You know, I like this, but I like.
But I think Idiot's Lantern, when we watched that and we were chatting about it, I think we got really enthused about it.
Yeah,
and
this
were like,
one I can kind of tell we're both saying, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, but we're equally not saying like, oh god, it's terrible.
No,
it's like,
no.
You know, it's a passable story. It's a good 45 minutes of TV.
Exactly.
You know, it's slightly integral to the series 1 structure, so it is needed.
It gives a bit more sort of context to Satellite 5 and that sort of.
But
thing.
you can see why it's perhaps gone under the radar a lot of the time. But it's been nice to chat about it, and it's been nice to give it some attention. You know.
Yeah.
So that's The Long Game. That's probably the first review anyone's done of The Long Game since 2005.
Very possibly.
But it's been nice to chat about it. What did you guys think of The Long Game? Maybe give it another watch. Let us know.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't think we asked people this time around, did we?
No, I didn't. I did put out a tweet at the start of the week saying we're going to be watching The Long Game, and it got no traction. So I think people just were not interested.
Maybe that was.
We'll see.
We'll see the view count for this episode. But talking of episodes, do you know what we're going to be doing next time?
I was just trying to check, but Google Docs is a pain to get into on a phone.
Well, I can tell you.
Good.
Because I made the thumbnails today.
Okay. Good.
So next time, dear listeners, we are going back to the classic series once more. We're going to be foraying back into the classic era for Ben.
Yes.
I've kind of done a rough kind of selection of episodes that I think these would be good ones for us to start with. But next time we're going back to 1971 and looking at Terror of the Autons.
Ooh,
John
yes.
Pertwee
I think I have watched this.
Okay.
Or part of it, because I watched it on Doctor Who on Twitch.
Interesting.
Because I remember seeing him in the bed stealing clothes and stuff.
So this one, no, that's Spearhead from Space.
Never mind.
So Terror of the Autons is the sequel
to that.
That
was his first story. Never mind.
So
okay,
you'll be introduced to the very first Master.
Yes.
You'll be introduced to.
Are they
Joe
one
Grant.
after another?
The Terror of the Autons.
Yeah.
It's so Terror of the Autons is the John Pertwee's second season opener.
Oh, so it's not his first series.
Not his first series. It's a brand new.
Maybe I haven't. I thought I could have sworn it was the same story. Never mind.
No, there you go. It's the Autons got 2 season openers back to.
Oh, that's why. That's why.
So yeah, and you'll be introduced to some of the unit family.
Yes.
Benton, Yates,
yes.
the Brigadier. It's a kind of a good one and the Autons, obviously. You know, that's
how many parts is Terror?
4-parter.
Oh, not bad.
I've been kind. I've been kind to you. Don't worry.
I
did when I was thinking of classics to put on this list. I was like, I'm not going to put any 6-parters on here just yet.
Has it got any Tales of the TARDIS highlight edits?
No.
Okay.
No. And I thought the 3. Maybe we could do the 3 Doctors later down the line, but I thought
we probably will.
Yeah.
Anniversary time.
Maybe we've definitely got some plans for some multi-Doctor shenanigans.
We do.
But yes, so join us next time for that, and then following that, if we want to tease the one after that as well.
Go on.
We'll be soaring all the way to the moon as we prepare to kill it.
Oh, is that brilliant?
Can't wait. Stay tuned for that one.
I cannot wait to kill the moon.
So yes, but join us next week, folks, for Terror of the Autons, and until then, have a lovely 2 weeks.
Sure. And you sound so enthused.
Yeah, I like Terror of the Autons. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
Sure, you don't sound it.
Go and play a long game, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Knowing Who, another Doctor Who podcast, with me, Miles Taylor.
And me, Ben Davidson. Thank you to Sonny King for producing our theme tune.
And thank you to you for listening. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus YouTube on the Tailored Vision YouTube channel.
You can also follow us on all social media channels at Knowing Who Pod.
Catch you next time for more Knowing Who.